I want to get to a little politics for a quick second before I went to the calls. Because, see, this is the kind of stuff that I speak on behalf of black folks everywhere, white folks everywhere, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, Jewish folks, Catholics, anybody who's in this country. This is the kind of BS that pisses us off. It really is. It's wasting our time. It's wasting our dollars. It's much ado about nothing. Much ado about nothing. And I'll explain in a minute. First example I want to use is former mayor of New York, former ridiculous presidential candidate, former right hand of President Trump, Mr. Rudy Giuliani. A court filing by Rudy Giuliani in response to a lawsuit filed against him by two Georgia election workers, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Wandrea Shea Moss, included a concession. Giuliani admitted to making defamatory statements against the workers. Now, see, people piss me off with this because they said to me, yo, Stephen A., Rudy Giuliani admitted he lied. Let me teach y'all something. As a journalist for 3 decades that kind of knows a thing or two about this stuff, admitting to making defamatory statements is not admitting to lying. You see how he played that? You see how slick it was? Do you get it? It's much ado about nothing, just a complete freaking waste of our damn time. Listen to Giuliani's quote from his lawyers. His lawyer says, Giuliani submitted the recent court filing that included the admittance in response to that request. Quote, he does not dispute for the purposes of this litigation that the statements carry meaning that is defamatory per se. While Giuliani does not admit to plaintiff's allegations, he, for the purposes of this litigation only, does not contest the factual allegations. Thus, plaintiffs do not need any additional discovery or sanctions regarding striking Giuliani's answer based on his concession of facts establishing liability. Giuliani basically said that these folks, these election workers, were cited by Giuliani and then Trump as an example of election fraud in Georgia, where they were accused of manipulating the ballots. They obviously sued him, and he's basically saying he admits to defaming them, but not necessarily lying. And the only reason he's doing that is for the purposes of the litigation, not as a point of fact. You see how they play with words? You see how they play with words? This is the bullshit. You either lied or you didn't. But somehow, some way, we got to go through one layer after another to get to that reality while taxpayer monies are wasted. This is what I'm talking about. This is the problem. Okay? But it's more the same. And guess what? The whole Hunter Biden situation is no better. I don't know if y'all heard the news. Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, who was a former crack addict. Let's just call it what it is. Yes, he was on crack. I said it that way about Lamar Odom. I can say it that way about the son of the president of the United States. He was on crack. They recently found cocaine in the White House, by the way. There's no evidence that it was his. Although in all the years I've been alive, I've not heard of cocaine being in the White House. This is the first time. But who's casting guilt? We don't know. We don't know. Anyway. He was supposed to go into a Delaware courtroom today and authenticate a plea deal he had reached just weeks ago. It was a plea deal between Hunter Biden and the Justice Department over tax charges, all right, tax evasion charges, because prosecutors said in court that Hunter Biden had failed to pay between $1.1 million and $1.5 million in taxes before the legal deadlines and was poised to plead guilty to 2 tax charges with prosecutors agreeing to recommend a sentence of probation. Obviously, the Republicans in the House wanted more than that because there was a felony gun charge, because if you are on probation for any reason, and in his case, the whole drug use and things, you're not supposed to be having a firearm, an unlicensed firearm at that. And apparently that was something that was considered to be a felony charge, and they thought he was getting off easy. But nevertheless, a plea deal between him and the Justice Department over the tax charges is on hold after a federal judge, Mary Ellen Noriega, basically put on hold by her because she said in a dramatic court hearing today that she was not ready to accept a revised agreement between Both parties, the defendant and the prosecutor. The hearing ended with President Joe Biden's son pleading not guilty for the time being, and the judge asking both sides to file additional briefs explaining the plea deal's legal structuring. Much ado about nothing. He's not going to jail, ladies and gentlemen. He's the president's son. And short of physically harming somebody else, he's not going to jail. And oh, by the way, the Republicans in the House want to be in an uproar. They want to be apoplectic because, my God, preferential treatment was accorded to the son of the President of the United States of America. Why the hell wouldn't preferential treatment be accorded to the son of the President of the United States? If I'm the commander-in-chief, I'm in charge of law enforcement throughout the country. The head of the Justice Department is appointed by me. State attorney generals and beyond answer to the Justice Department or the state attorney generals. Why wouldn't I have an inside track? Why wouldn't I have inroads? I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying, why are we walking around acting like we're aghast over this? Shut up! Will you stop with the nonsense? Oh my God, money shouldn't matter, but it does. Context shouldn't matter, but it does. I work for ESPN. I am an employee. I am not Bob Iger, CEO of Walt Disney. I am not Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN. I'm not Burke Magnus, who's running production and promotions for ESPN. I am not Dave Roberts or Norby Williamson. I'm not working at Facebook. Even if I was working at Facebook, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. If I'm working at Amazon, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'm none of these people. But if I was at that place, what I am at ESPN and Walt Disney, that explains why I get all of these damn calls. Yo, Stephen A., could you look out for a brother? Could you give a recommendation? Could you take this resume and give it to somebody, please? Because when people have an inside track, they use it. Why are you acting like you don't know that in the United States of America? Will you grow the hell up? Now, somebody shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue, like Trump claimed he could years ago, and get away with it. That's a different argument. We're really going to sit up here and be apoplectic about the fact that the son of the President of the United States paid his taxes beyond the deadline he was supposed to pay his taxes in back-to-back years. And oh, by the way, possessed a gun. And because of that, he's getting away with a misdemeanor deal. We really gonna make noise about that? We really got Jim Jordan and these people on Capitol Hill bitching over that? Really? Really? It's that kind of BS. By the way, just using taxpayer dollars to do it, that annoys the living hell out of us. It's stuff like that that leads to the insurrection on January 6th in 2021, you know. Because at some point in time, even though it was ridiculous, because you had folks storming the Capitol to overthrow a government they run, it still doesn't negate the point that when you have dominion over people's lives and you're taking their monies and you're utilizing their resources for your own benefits at their expense, frustration is going to boil. Why can't you just do the right thing? I tell you why they can't do the right thing. Because the Democrats were doing the wrong thing by going after Trump excessively for every little damn thing they could. Certainly there were things that he deserved to be going after for. But there were other things that were trivial. And since they were trivial, the Republicans who now have control of the House are saying, it's our turn. Just like when they went after Clinton over the Monica Lewinsky scandal in the mid-90s. So guess what? They tried to go after George W. Bush over everything. They tried to go after Trump over everything. And the American people are pawns. This is why people can't stand your asses on Capitol Hill. Forget partisanship. Forget a side. Y'all can't just shove stuff aside and run our damn government. You got to waste time on stuff like this. Hunter Biden is not going to jail. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Not over this. Not over this. Oh, let's impeach Joe Biden. Get that video ready. Show the video to the American people, because this is why people, they want to point to stuff like this so we can impeach Joe Biden. Go ahead and play this right now, please.
They were walking out the press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
I rest my case. The then Vice President of the United States of America had a problem with a prosecutor in Ukraine, wanted him fired, and used the power of his connection to the presidency to say, you're not getting $1 billion. You're not the president. So what? Call him. You ain't getting it unless you fire that prosecutor. Sure enough, the prosecutor was replaced, and they got their $1 billion. That's influence. That's power. By the way, did you know that Putin has power in Russia? You think everybody in Russia wants to attack Ukraine? Putin didn't care. He got the power, they don't. Everywhere you look throughout the world, people with influence and power occasionally exercise it. That's the way of the world. Get the hell over it and stop with the pettiness. This is just embarrassing. Nothing's going to happen to Hunter Biden. And oh, by the way, Hunter Biden, who was on crack, is not the president. His daddy is. And his daddy, who said that, he said, one behind closed doors, some secret tape revealed by TMZ or something. Vice President Biden told that to the media. And now years later, we want to use that as an excuse to impeach him? Just because everybody went after Trump? We're the pawns. We're the ones not getting things done for us. I'm talking white, black, and everybody in between under the stewardship of our government on Capitol Hill, who seems to do a far greater job of servicing themselves than servicing all of us as the American people. That is the crime. What we really need to do as American citizens is say to one another, despite our differences, let's come together and demand that they stop wasting our money on petty bullshit and that they go about the business of getting the work done on Capitol Hill. That's what we really, really, really should be coming together. Because that way we can truly judge who's doing the job and who doesn't. As opposed to them allowing us to give lip service and acting like they're doing something that they really ain't doing to make a difference, when all they're doing is throwing icing on the cake, trying to appease everybody to make themselves look like they're being productive when they ain't doing a damn thing. They make me sick. I swear to God, they make me sick. I'm talking about ineffective, useless politicians wasting our time with stuff that's going to amount to nothing. I said the same thing about Trump, you know. When he had the 37 charges going against him, what was the first thing Stephen A. Smith came on the air and said? What did I say, y'all? You know what I said? I said, quote, is he going to end up in jail? Because if he's not going to end up in jail, why are y'all wasting my time? It's a waste of time. One charge after another. You're really trying to derail his election. You're actually making his arguments about election fraud look legitimate, because even though he lost the damn election legitimately, in this particular instance, the likelihood is that he ain't going to end up in jail either. But enough noise is going to be thrown in his direction, and you'll scare him enough, maybe not, where he ultimately will lose the election, or dare I say, decide not to even run anymore, or catch a heart attack or a stroke, because he just can't take the stress. Now, I don't know if any of that stuff's going to happen, but that's what you're hoping. At some point in time, could you have the decency to close? Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, Alec Baldwin, always be closing. always be closing ABC. If you ain't closing, you ain't doing the job. And who fails to close better than politicians on Capitol Hill? Full of pomp and circumstances, full of sound and fury, signifying absolutely nothing. It's really embarrassing how useless we've become in our government. It's a crying damn shame.